we are giving you the most entertaining, fun to watch bad teams that the Cleveland Browns have had since 1999. If you missed it earlier, I talked about at number 3, 2018 Baker Mayfield's rookie year, how fun of a team that was able to watch, especially at the end of the year when they had Greg Williams. Let's get into number 2, and we're going to get into the 2010 Peyton Hillis Madden cover year for the Cleveland Browns. If you remember, Peyton Hillis came onto the scene. Eric Mangini was the head coach, and Peyton Hillis came onto the scene like a monster. He really turned the city out. I remember watching the 2 games against the New Orleans Saints. I remember watching the game against Bill Belichick and the Patriots. They win those 2 games. I remember that game against the Jets where they pushed them to the overtime. And by the way, those Jets went to the AFC Championship game that year. So the Jets were pretty good back then. So let's take a look at down memory lane. This is courtesy of NFL Throwback, and this is the rise of Peyton Hillis and how he went from no-name gangster to the cover of Madden.
The cover shoot was overly done. You know, they set up this big display right in downtown square in New York. And you had thousands upon thousands of people walking by while you're doing the shoot. You know, I'm in this football uniform and people are just looking at you, taking pictures. And once the game did come out, they're saying, who's this guy? You know, Cleveland Brown, white running back, who is this guy? It was like the perfect storm coming into Cleveland. You know, it seemed like they're in a rebuilding process.
I introduced the head coach of the Cleveland Browns, Eric Mangini.
Honestly, to this day, Coach Mangini was the one guy that probably had the most faith in me. I was not ever going to let somebody tackle me one-on-one or somebody bring me down.
Hillis picks up about 4 yards on the carry.
People from Madden, I went on ESPN and went on their website and said, you know, we're going to pick the best player off of each team and we're going to pick the Madden cover that way, so we give everybody a fair shake. And at that point, Browns kind of rallied behind because they looked at the season I had. They showed their love for me. 32 guys. Every time that I would see myself against somebody, I was like, well, I'm not going to win that. And then you would win, and you would keep winning, and then you would get to somebody like Aaron Rodgers, or you get somebody like Matt Ryan. I was like, how do I win this? There's no way I win this unless by the Cleveland Browns and all their fans. The last week of the voting ended up being me and Michael Vick. And we're sitting there to see who was going to be announced the pick. And I even went up to him. I was like, listen, man, no matter what happens, I think you should be on this cover. And he goes, man, it doesn't matter. After I ended up winning, I'm thinking to myself, they got to be kidding me, because I didn't belong there. And I didn't. I was kind of fearful because I kind of knew what the backlash would be if I was on it. And that's what was scary. I never was a guy that wanted to be in the limelight. As a kid, you look at all these people in NFL and just almost idolize them. And, I was at that point, you're on a video game. I'm very blessed to have been on the cover because they put me on it. And I'll wear that on my shirt and be proud of it to the day I die.
And that was courtesy of NFL Throwback, man. That was a great time to be alive, man. Let me just tell you about this, man. That season was so funny because, they went out before the season and they traded with the Denver Broncos to try to get Peyton Hillis. And at the time, the Broncos had him listed as a fullback. He was not a guy who was really a guy that was a running back style. And Eric Mangini, to his credit, saw that Peyton Hillis was one of those guys who was really a difference maker and really did his thing and was able to see that he had good hands out of the backfield. He was a bruising style back, and he showed surprising breakaway speed. I remember when I first got in the industry around this time. This happened to be 2010. And what I was doing, I was actually an intern at the time. I was interning at ESPN Cleveland, and I was helping at the time, come all the way drive from Canton to Cleveland up here to put, intern and do different things. And we put a stage together. And I just remember Peyton Hillis being like, when he would get the ball, the crowd would be going crazy. I mean, this dude was the first marquee player, like, since you talk about like that type of fame, like Peyton Hillis week after week after week became the more and more he started running the football, the more they started giving him the ball, like his fame and notoriety around the NFL just went through the roof. And it got to a point where he was a household name. And when they did the cover of Madden, he details it in that video. It was crazy because each and every week, like he said, he was up against quarterbacks. I mean, these dudes primetime players. These dudes is the who's who household names at the time. Mike Vick had been the comeback player. Mike Vick came back and had MVP type numbers with Andy Reid. And when you go back and look at this, man, just the simple fact that he went from there to leaving the Browns in 1 year was crazy to me. It was nuts to me. Let's take a look at the season, because the season wasn't that great. Let's look at the win-loss record and kind of take a look at what happened. So you look, and the Browns started 0-3, and I think Peyton Hillis really started getting his touches in that first game. The first Baltimore game, they ended up losing 24-17. But from there, Peyton Hillis takes off. He takes off and he doesn't look back. I think the Browns only won, how many games they win this year? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They win 5 games this year. However, the games that everybody remember are these games right here. So New Orleans, right? After the Pittsburgh game, they take that L. They beat the New Orleans Saints 30-17. And I believe, was Colt McCoy the starting quarterback for that team? We'll find out here in a second. So they beat New Orleans. They had Drew Brees. Then they come back and beat the Patriots at home. He talks about Bill Belichick congratulating them after this game. They win that game 34-14. This is with prime Tom Brady. Everybody in Cleveland is super, super excited. They end up losing the very next week in overtime to the Jets 26-20. But like I said, the Jets was a primetime team back then. They were in the midst of the Rex Ryan era. They were going to AFC Championships games, and the Browns played them really tough. Those are the 3 games that stood out to me. But when you look at Peyton Hillis and his numbers, as we bring these up, you take a look at him, and Peyton Hillis had one heck of a year. Over 1,100 yards, over 11 touchdowns as well. He caught the ball well out of the backfield, over almost 500 yards and 2 more touchdowns in the receiving game, which was crazy. Colt McCoy was the quarterback some of the season. Colt McCoy started some games. Jake Delhomme, Seneca Wallace played some games at quarterback. Josh Cribbs is at Wildcat. But you take a look at what Peyton Hillis was able to do at that time. He didn't even play all the games, right? He only started 14 games that year, and he ends up on the Madden cover. So, to me, I thought that when you looked at Peyton Hillis, he was, if you looked at the Madden cover and you took a look at everything that he looked like and how he looked, 3 anomalies stand out. He was one of the biggest running backs we've ever seen. He was like he said, a white running back, and a bruiser at that. But he had a rare ability to have speed. He had the rare ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. And he had a unique running style. He was one of the first people with the face mask. He had a 40, like that face mask that he had was unique. I don't think anybody else had that face mask but him. And on top of that, he was number 40. That's a fullback number. He had the spat on, and he was a country guy. I remember him down there running the Wild Hog at Arkansas with Darren McFadden. And they had 3 backs down there. And what's the guy that it's escaping me? Put the other dude in there. He got drafted by the Cowboys. If you remember what his name was, put it in the comment section below. Also, let me know what your favorite Peyton Hillis trait was. What made you like Peyton Hillis so much? But he got crazy story. If you haven't watched it, go check it out. His real life story. He almost died trying to save his kids. He's saving people that was in a swimming accident. He was also been in a couple movies. Make sure you check that out. It's sad how it ended there. It's a whole crazy thing about a hamstring injury in Cleveland, and they didn't know either whether he's going to play or not. He ends up bouncing around. He went to Kansas City. I think he was with the Giants a little bit. It really never panned out after that. That was his one great year. But the one great year that he had, I'm excited, and I'm privileged to know that I'm a Cleveland Browns fan, and we got to witness it here in Cleveland.